What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be continuing our look at our 2023 fantasy football wide receiver rankings and tiers that we did not too long ago, the top 20 guys. Today, it's going to be top 40 from 21 to number 40. So should be pretty interesting. If you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? Who's too high? Who's too low? Along with any other questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And as I mentioned, this is a continuation of our top 20 wide receiver rankings and tiers breakdown, which will be linked in the description. If you haven't checked that out already, make sure to do so. Another reminder, this is PPR based in terms of scoring formats, so keep that in mind. Once we go through these names, I will mention some guys that are more standard suited, so no worries there. But that's pretty much it. So let's dive into this thing. Again, I'll scroll here quickly so you guys can get an idea of the first 20 names. We went through our first 4 tiers. DJ Moore rounded out our 20th guy in tier 4. So tier 5 kicks off with number 21. That is Terry McLaurin of the Washington football team. I should say Washington Commanders, excuse me. But either way, with Terry, it's a situation that we know well at this point in time, right? Scary Terry, very talented wide receiver when he's had consistent quarterback play. That's the thing that's holding him back. Similar to a DJ Moore, honestly. McLaurin, all the talent in the world, but when you have guys, coming in and out, revolving door situation in the quarterback position, and even more quarterback instability this year, how at the helm of the ship, do we really believe in him? It's a big question mark. I continue to believe that Washington is playing for a quarterback of the future type of situation. So because of that, I think Terry's going to suffer. I think that entire offense is going to suffer. Don't get me wrong. Again, I love the talent. We've seen him produce big games. We've seen him be able to catch, 7+ a game, things like that. I do like him more in PPR formats, but you also have to think, well, guys like Jahan Dotson are going to continue to grow in this offense. It's going to take away a little bit from Terry on top of that. And if the quarterback situation struggles, it's going to be pretty much the same story as always. A couple of big weeks, but a lot of boom or bust type of situations. And honestly, when we get into this tier 5 category, that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at mid-level to low-end wide receiver 2s. They're talented for sure. They have the upside, some of them, to really catapult upwards, but they've got a couple, extraneous things holding them back, whether it's, their play, injuries, teammates, etc. But that's why McLaurin finds himself here, mainly because of the quarterback situation. Let's move on to number 22. That is Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. And I actually have him ranked higher than Deebo Samuel. I think as far as pass catching opportunities, his will be higher. I think he will see more targets than Deebo Samuel. Sure, Deebo Samuel might get some designated runs, but that has gone down, especially after the addition of Christian McCaffrey. I think after Deebo had his breakout season, it's kind of passed, and now Ayuk is the guy that is the main wide receiver for San Francisco. But either way, I think the problem with whoever you have ranked higher, whether it's Ayuk or Deebo, there's just so much competition here on this offense. You've got Christian McCaffrey, you've got George Kittle, then you've got the 2 wide receivers in Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. You've also got a team that wants to run the football, committee type of situation. So it's going to be tough, but I do think Ayuk is the guy to own. He's somebody that also you can get cheaper. I just so happen to have him ranked higher. Then number 23, Michael Pittman Jr., a guy that, a couple years back, we were all hyping up so much. I think some of the issues that Pittman had was we were all maybe looking at him as that next Keenan Allen, something like that. But the quarterback situation was missing in Indianapolis. Matt Ryan flamed out, Carson Wentz flamed out, Phillip Rivers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now you've got Anthony Richardson, who I anticipate will be the starter for the majority of the season. The problem is Anthony Richardson, not exactly known for being an accurate quarterback, more so a mobile, physical guy that's going to be running it. That's what his upside is tied to. Regardless, though, to me, Pittman is still the number one wide receiver in Indianapolis. And I think that he is going to, still be the main beneficiary there, but his upside is definitely capped. I think from, at least a 2023 standpoint, maybe as Richardson continues to develop as a passing quarterback, the upside of Pittman will continue to grow with him. But right now, short term, I am a little bit worried. I don't think that the volume is necessarily going to be there. But because he is the number one guy, he will get opportunities. It's just that his, again, success will really heavily be tied to Anthony Richardson and how he goes. And if we have a surprise there and it's not Anthony Richardson, that's another wrench into this whole conversation. But we will look at that at a later time. At number 24, we've got Mike Williams of the LA Chargers. Look, the Chargers locked him down. And I think Mike Williams right now, one of the most trusted guys by Herbert alongside Keenan Allen at the wide receiver position. But Keenan Allen still is going to get the majority of the targets, even though, it might not translate to a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. But Mike Williams, on the flip side, is ranked higher in standard formats. Now, you've got the addition of Quentin Johnston as well. But I still think Williams and Keenan Allen are going to be the top two guys for me, as long as there's no injuries. I feel like that's been kind of the issue here with Williams and with Keenan Allen the last couple of years. If both these guys can stay healthy, they're both going to be great values at ADP, and they have me excited. But again, it just matters how much you want to risk it. At number 25, we've got Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Breakout year last year with Trevor Lawrence. And you might be saying, why do you have him ranked so low? Well, the problem is one Calvin Ridley. And I think Calvin Ridley is a very, very talented wide receiver. Underrated. People are kind of afraid because he's coming back from a suspension. But to me, he's going to be the number one wide receiver for Jacksonville. In my eyes, that leaves Kirk as the number two. But that's not an awful thing. I think that Lawrence is going to take that next step forward this year as well. And I do think Jacksonville can support two top 25 wide receivers. So Kirk, maybe not going to have as many huge games as he had last year, but maybe we see some more consistency on a game-to-game basis throughout the entirety of the year, which I am excited for. At number 26, I've got Jerry Jeudy, one of the harder wide receivers to rank, honestly, for me this year. And the issue here with Jeudy is that he is in a wide receiver room that has a lot of talent. Courtland Sutton, a lot of names there. Then the main thing here, the Russell Wilson factor. What Russell Wilson version are we going to get? Because if it's Russell Wilson of last year, doesn't matter who your wide receivers are, there's not going to be a lot of value there. And that's what I'm worried about. That's why I'm kind of hedging my bets with the Denver wide receivers and how I rank them. Maybe Sean Payton can fix Russell Wilson, get another 1 or 2 years out of him. But we'll see. Until I actually see it, I'm not investing too heavily in Denver Bronco wide receiver stock. At number 27, Chris Godwin. Look, if Tom Brady was still there, Chris Godwin would be much higher. He would easily be a top 20 guy for me, especially in PPR formats. But since it's Baker Mayfield, probably being the main guy for the Bucs at the quarterback position, Chris Godwin, I just cannot bring myself to trust him. Baker Mayfield is god-awful. We've seen it with him in Carolina. Didn't last there. DJ Moore wasn't all that great with him. The Rams didn't bring him back. I mean, the Browns traded him away. So it's a situation where even though there's a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, specifically in Tampa Bay, it's going to be immensely handicapped by Baker Mayfield. Then Deebo Samuel at number 28. I kind of touched on him with Brendan Ayuk. My worry here is there's just so many other mouths to feed, and Deebo isn't going to be used as much as a rusher. I think that the breakout campaign that he had 2 years ago was kind of a flash in the pan. I think he's still very talented, but he's just not going to be utilized as much. That's why he comes in at the number 28 spot. At number 29, I've got Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is somebody that I like. I like the talent. A couple years ago, I was banging the drum for him, but that was when Big Ben was still there. Now we have got Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett, again, is a wide receiver, is a quarterback that I really don't like. Deontay Johnson happens to be in the top 30 because he's just going to get peppered with targets. The targets aren't great, but he saw so much volume last year that he's going to be startable. It's just, again, it's going to be headaches. In standard formats, I would have him lower. He gets a lot of his value just because of the catches that he gets in PPR formats. But otherwise, it's tough for me to be excited about these wide receivers in Pittsburgh when I don't believe in Kenny Pickett. At number 30, we've got Tyler Lockett. Lower on him this year than I was last year. Has a lot to do just with Jackson Smith and Jigba being added to the mix. But somehow Lockett will continue to be a value at ADP. We continue to count him out. He's still going to outproduce his ADP. I feel pretty good about that. Hopefully Geno Smith puts together another solid year. To me, Lockett is more of that standard suited wide receiver. Those big passes, long touchdowns, things like that. We'll see, though, if this year he kind of takes a step backwards, falls off a cliff, TBD, but I do think the future is Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle. Next, we get to our Tier 6 category, and here, again, another step down. Some talent, some new faces on new teams, maybe some rookies, guys dealing with injuries on the older side of it. But there is upside. Again, still in the category of upside. Number 31, Jordan Addison, Minnesota Vikings, my favorite rookie this year in terms of landing spots and opportunities, playing opposite Justin Jefferson. Obviously Jefferson is going to get all the love and deservedly so, but don't sleep on Addison. He's taking Adam Thielen's spot. Sure, TJ Hawkinson is there at the tight end position, but I think a lot of those targets will be redistributed. The Vikings aren't afraid to thrust rookies in, roles right away. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson is going to take away a lot of coverage opposite Addison. And God forbid something happens to Justin Jefferson, Addison gets an even bigger boost. So I am high on the rookie. At number 32, I've got Elijah Moore. This is a situation where I think Cleveland traded for Moore for a reason. Amari Cooper's the number one guy, but Moore, young dude, I think you put him in the slot potentially. He's going to get a lot of value in PPR formats. I think Deshaun Watson takes another step forward. We see Deshaun Watson of old. And I think this offense is going to be better than it was last year. I'm excited about Elijah Moore. Yes, he's got to contend with DPJ over there, but to me, I think Moore does have some upside to potentially surprise some people this year. At number 33, we've got Michael Thomas, another guy where, I like the talent a lot, but it feels like the last time he played was a century ago. Just has had some of the worst injury luck these last, 2.5 years, it feels like. Hopefully, he gets right this season. But I think he's the number 2 guy for New Orleans at this point. Chris Olave is the number 1 guy, and Michael Thomas is going to be that veteran leader. But I do think he outproduces ADP if he stays healthy. That's going to be the biggest thing here. How comfortable do you feel taking a chance on Michael Thomas? If he stays healthy, I do think he can be a top 40 wide receiver, but that is a big if. Next, DeAndre Hopkins. I almost didn't want to rank him. He comes in at number 34, but he will be signed at some point. He's currently a free agent. If I had to put money on it, I would say it's the Titans. If not them, the New England Patriots. I don't really love either of the landing spots. I do think Tennessee is probably the better one because less wide receiver competition, slightly better quarterback, but that's just my 2 cents on it. If he goes to a dark horse team with a legit quarterback, I'll be excited. I'll move him up. But in the meantime, I do think his best days are behind him. At number 35, Christian Watson of the Packers, a guy that I am much lower than consensus. He'll be better in standard formats, but look, it's as simple as this. No more Aaron Rodgers, and this offense is going to take a big step forward. I do not believe in Jordan Love, and I don't think Christian Watson is going to pick up where he left off last year with Aaron Rodgers. I think that there's going to be a bigger even distribution amongst the other wide receivers here. So for that reason, I am out on Christian Watson. Number 36, we have got Drake London, another second-year wide receiver. And here, it's a similar situation as with Watson. I don't believe in the quarterback in Ritter. That's what has me worried. Also, on top of that, you could argue that Kyle Pitts is going to be ahead of London as far as pass catchers are concerned. Bijan Robinson is going to catch a lot of passes as well. Honestly, I'm kind of hoping Heineke takes over as the quarterback for the Falcons. That kind of has me excited because we know what he can do. But Drake London is still a guy that, the Falcons invested high draft capital in, and hopefully he's utilized more so. We will see. But until the quarterback situation is resolved, I have a tough time ranking him higher. At number 37, Jahan Dotson. Again, another young wide receiver that a lot of people are excited for this year. And as far as talent is concerned, I agree. But everything I said about Terry McLaurin holds here for Dotson. I do not believe in the quarterback situation. And on top of that, Dotson is not the number one wide receiver for Washington. That is Terry McLaurin. So when you combine those two things together, I do like Dotson at a value. I like the upside, but I'm going to have a hard time trusting him week in and week out as a starting wide receiver. Then Alan Lazard at number 38 of the New York Jets follows Aaron Rodgers to New York. And Lazard is somebody that I was high on last year. I'm high on him, relatively speaking, again this year too. But it's primarily because we've already got the established Garrett Wilson, the number one wide receiver for the Jets. I think Lazard operates better as a wide receiver too. I'm just curious to see how the Jets use him. Isn't going to be a situation again where he's heavily used as a blocker. If that's the case, it's unfortunately going to sap a lot of his fantasy value. But as long as he can stay healthy, that connection with Aaron Rodgers has been there for a few years. Rodgers trusts him, and we know when Rodgers trusts you as a wide receiver, good things happen. I think ADP-wise, he will outproduce his ADP, being drafted outside the top 50 wide receivers. As you can see, I have him as a top 40 guy. Next at number 39, Adam Thielen of the Panthers. A little bit of a dart throw here on my end, but hear me out. One of these Panthers wide receivers is going to be a top 40 wide receiver, in my opinion. The question is figuring out which one. Is it going to be Thielen? Is it going to be Jonathan Mingo, the rookie? Is it going to be Terrace Marshall? Is it going to be DJ Shark? I don't think it's going to be Shark. I don't think he's going to get enough volume. I don't think it's going to be Mingo because I think he's going to come in a little bit sooner. He could be the guy in 2024, 2025. We'll see. So to me, it's between Adam Thielen and Terrace Marshall. I think Thielen, being the most veteran out of all of those guys, is just by that going to be the number one wide receiver. I think he's going to get the most targets, even though there might be short, intermediate routes. But that's going to translate to PPR success. In standard formats, he would be lower. But again, one of these Panthers wide receivers has to finish somewhat high. And my favorite of the bunch to do so is Adam Thielen. I believe in Bryce Young, so to me, Thielen is a sneaky addition. And then at number 40, rounding out our list, I've got Brandon Cooks of the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas picking him up to pair with that stacked offense. Yes, I know CeeDee Lamb is the number one guy, obviously. Michael Gallup is also in the equation, but I do think Brandon Cooks is a little bit of a better wide receiver, a little bit more consistent. I mean, look at his production the last few years. Regardless of the quarterback he has produced, even though it has been up and down, and that will be the case again this year. He's going to a much better team, much better offense, much better quarterback, but there's a lot of competition here. After CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup is going to lead this wide receiver group as the number 2 wide receiver several weeks. Brandon Cooks will as well, but it's going to be up and down. There's going to be some weeks where it's the rushing attack that's featured. And that's what we have to come to expect now with Brandon Cooks when he's not the number 1 wide receiver. There's going to be more inconsistencies. It'll be a slightly higher floor, but guess what? The ceiling will be lower, and we'll still have consistency issues. But you do have to like the upside considering the offense that he is on. But with that, we wrap up our top 40 wide receiver rankings and tiers for the 2023 fantasy football season. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section, did you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have. We'll do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.